We are back and we are live. It is Fight IQ presented by RotoWire MMA. Here to talk UFC Moscow. Our main event is going to be hotly debated on this podcast. It is Mark Hunt versus Alexey Oleinik. Fight IQ is a DFS DraftKings specific MMA podcast. I am your host, the Daily Fantasy Sniper, the analyst for this podcast, Joe, also known as @Sunsu on Twitter. Joe, how are you doing?
Good, man. I came so close last week, having a really good day, and I got T-wooded, man. I needed Tyron Woodley to win. I needed him to score less than 106 points, or Darren Till to score less than 103 points. That's all I needed, and I win 10 grand for finishing in second place in the $10. Now, I was feeling pretty good because neither one of those guys are 100-point scorers.
Except everyone forgot what a mismatch it was. Like I didn't think it was going to be that bad, but I was trying to tell you, Darren Till was having close fights with Bojan Velichkovic, and in hindsight, it looked great. But that's what stuck out to me.
But it's amazing how the whole dynamic changed, because I'm on Woodley, and the whole dynamic changes because I'm rooting then for Till. Hold on, take it to round 3. Take it to round 3. Yep. Like the whole dynamic had changed, but I finished 6th. I also won a ticket. I'm in a tiebreaker for another ticket. So let's make some money on this card.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it in a second, but I also had a really good week last week. The other analyst on this podcast is Chris, @RealChrisOlson on Twitter. Chris, how was your week last week?
It could have been better, quite frankly. I am glad, I did get some purchase off of Jeff Neal, so I'm happy about that. More people than I expected seem to be on Frank Camacho. So, I took that 120 points I got from Jeff Neal with a lot of scarcity, and it helped me out quite a bit. But this week is the week I'm most excited about. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you know that I've been pumping Alexey Oleinik fight week all week. I'm ready to talk main events. I can't wait to get there. So let's get started. I can't wait.
You are out of your damn mind. By the way, I didn't plug my own Twitter, @the DFS Sniper with 1 S. This fight card is really interesting in terms of there are a lot of lopsided fights. I think roster construction is going to be the most important thing this week. Keep that in mind as you're listening. We're really hard up for these underdogs. Before we get into the actual fight breakdown, I want to do a quick plug for our sponsor, RotoWire MMA, and just RotoWire in general. Go to rotowire.com/free. Check out all their usually paid content for 10 days, all for free, no credit card required. Daily fantasy, season-long stuff. Check it out over there, rotowire.com/free. And let's get into the first fight of the night. Merab Dvalishvili, 9,200, taking on Terrion Ware at 7,200. Get ready to hear lines like this all throughout this episode. Dvalishvili is a -500 favorite. Terrion Ware +435, and he has angered someone in the MMA. The MMA gods are mad at him because this guy has gotten a murderer's row of people in his UFC stint. This is his 4th fight. He's 0-3. If you're wondering why he's gotten 4 fights, though, he's taken on Tom Duquesnoy, Sugar Sean O'Malley, Cody Stamann. Ooh. And it doesn't get a whole lot easier here in Merab Dvalishvili, who pushes an incredible pace. It's great for DraftKings. Will constantly look for takedowns. Personally, I don't think Ware is able to stop the takedown. Signs, who Dvalishvili took down a ton, is a D1 wrestler. Just Dvalishvili kind of gasses himself out. Here, though, I don't think Ware's going to be able to keep the pace either. I like the scoring potential. First fight of the night is one of my favorites. I like Dvalishvili. Let me think here. I'm thinking about this because we have 12 fights in this card. So I want Chris to go last for Alexey Oleinik.
All right.
So that means he has to start us off here. So, Chris, you're up.
All right. Sounds good. Yeah, I pretty much have the same feeling you do. One thing I was going to say about Merab is, and this fight in general, the framing could be, the 2 best fighters without a win in the UFC, because Merab famously lost the Science fight by split decision, if I remember correctly, and then the weird guillotine thing with Ricky Simone. So it's going to be an interesting fight, I think. I think the thing about Merab is we know that he's a fire plug, and he's gonna chase those takedowns. But he doesn't hold position very well at all. I think 3 times in that Simone fight, when he tried to take the back, he just slid right off. And, Simone was able to just get back to the center. I like Terrion Ware. I like the fact that he closes distance. That's when he had his most success in that Sean O'Malley fight, when he was able to close the distance. I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. I don't really think Merab gets tired, at least not visibly. I mean, he must be because he expends a lot of energy. But I don't think his fight aggressiveness really flags that much. And I think that's going to be the biggest problem for Terrion Ware here. I think Ware is a clean boxer with fast hands. So he could tag Dvalishvili up a little bit. But even in his last fight, we saw that his striking, speaking of Dvalishvili's, was getting a little better. So, yeah, I'm going to take Dvalishvili by decision here also. I just don't think he's going to be able to stop the takedown or keep up with the pace. So that's the pick.
Also interesting, in Dvalishvili's 2 UFC losses, he scored over 70 points in each of those. Yeah, in his losses. So when you're picking up in that high range, there's a lot of targets here. It's something to keep in mind, who's going to score a ton of points, who's most likely to score a ton of points. For me, Dvalishvili is pretty high on that list. How about you, Joe?
Look, I mean, Dvalishvili, I saw his last fight in Atlantic City. He seems to have poor fight IQ, and that is really the only chance I see here for Terrion Ware. I started out the week, like, I don't know if I shared this with our millions of viewers, but as soon as the salaries drop, I always create one lineup right off the cuff. No research. I just go in, salaries, boom, create a lineup. The first lineup I created had Terrion Ware in it because I'm thinking, okay, 7.1K. He's fought some decent, really good competition. I would argue that he won the fight against Dukanoi. That I scored that fight for him. I thought that was a really bad loss.
It's a close fight, but I gave that one. It was a close
fight. I gave it to Ware anyway. So the point here is that, look, he is clearly the better technical striker, and we know that Dvalishvili does not have great fight IQ. So would it shock me if Ware caught him with something? No. Now, I believe that Dvalishvili is a Georgian, which is a subtle distinction from, a normal Russian. So, yeah, it's a lot closer than what Ware is, but I don't necessarily know that that is enough to show a high level of favoritism if it's a close decision. So my pick is going to be Dvalishvili, and to both your points, he will score well on DraftKings if he wins. He will get a lot of takedowns. I do see it as a fight going the distance. However, with that said, I think Ware has got a pretty decent floor. So I could think of a lot worse plays in cash. I mean, he's scoring 50 points, 40 points in a loss, which in this card, with all these high-priced favorites, that might not be the worst punt in the world in cash. Dare I even say it?
Yeah, you could stack the fight.
Stack a 3-round fight.
I don't know about 40 or 50, but if there's any 3-round, you're going to stack any 3-rounder on this card, it's a Dvalishvili fight for sure.
Right. So my pick is Dvalishvili, but I wouldn't kill anybody for throwing Ware in a couple lineups, nor would I kill anybody for Ware in cash.
All right, next up, Ramazan Emeev. It's one of the ones not totally sure on. Stefan Sekulić is 6,900. Emeev 9,300. The line on this fight is more lopsided than the name pronunciation I just gave it, as Emeev is a massive minus 560 favorite. Sekulić is plus 475. Look, it's hard to find tape on Sekulić, but Emeev is a real deal prospect. The only thing, he mixes it up well. He has very good fight IQ, very professional fighter. Doesn't really stand out anywhere except that he is good everywhere. And Sekulić, I believe he's the one who's a gym teacher, not to steal Joe's narrative thunder, but I think he's a gym teacher in Serbia, taking this fight on short notice. The one worry I have for Emeev is he typically doesn't score well on DraftKings at all. He's got wins over, believe it's pull it up, it's right in front of me, Sam Alvey and Alberto Mina at 65 points, 54 points. At 9,300 on this card, that's not going to get it done, but I do like him to win this fight. Joe, what do you have for this one?
Yeah, so actually he's minus 670 on DraftKings Sportsbook.
I'm going by 5 times.
I know.
With the VEG on the DraftKings Sportsbook.
DraftKings odds are really wild. Although if you're betting dogs, DraftKings might not be bad. Yeah, if you need to find someone that you're gonna be underexposed to, it's gonna be Emeev, just because of what you stated, that he doesn't seem to have any sense of urgency. And I don't know a lot about his opponent. It just seems like this is a real softball for him. So it wouldn't surprise me if he got the finish. But I certainly think there are better plays at his price point. But he is my pick to win.
Chris, what do you got for this one?
Well, since you guys don't seem to have gotten a lot of tape on Sekulić, I'll tell you that you're one of the fortunate ones. I suffered through a couple of his fights, and generally he's a grappler who throws big power single shots, but mostly what he does is get himself back up and look for a chance to grapple and bring the fight to the ground. I really don't see a big path for him to win at all in this spot. I also think Emeev can finish here just by overwhelming him when he backs him up. I mean, your point's well taken about the his two fights in the UFC, but Sam Alvey's a tough guy to look good against even if you win, because he just by not doing anything, he tends to shut down your offense. And then in the last fight, we saw him really have to defend a lot of grappling exchanges, and which he did very well. Which is another reason that I like him a lot here. I think he's better everywhere, and I think he's got sneaky power. And I'm probably going to throw him into a GPP or two, or I would recommend that somebody would do that, just because I agree with you guys, because there's a lot more flashier favorites on this card. So I think he's going to be underowned against an opponent that he's got pretty much an advantage everywhere against. And if that spells finish, which it could do, you're going to have a lot of those beautiful points to yourself. So the pick is Emeev, and I would say don't sleep on him as a pick to score a lot of points here.
All right, so I'm going to backtrack real quick. I missed a question. Marco in chat asked, and we'll just give a quick number because I don't want to spend too much time on this. What's your ceiling for a Merab decision? I'm going to say, and the decision, his ceiling still pretty high. I'm going to go 115. Joe?
All I'm gonna say is, because I'm really bad at this, is I'm gonna say under that. I'm gonna say under.
I'll say under.
Okay. By the way, Zelda says he wants a game-worn Chris Olsen Roto-Wire hat. And
yes, I saw that. I mean, you know what? It's kind of creepy, but I could use the money. So if he wants it, I
mean, you just alienated your fan base calling it creepy, so I don't think it's going to work.
Hey, no, I'm not. I don't judge. I just,
No, it's too late for that. Moving on, Jordan Johnson, 8,700, taking on Adam Yandiev at 7,500. This is an interesting one. There's a lot of narratives on this fight that I'm sure I'll touch on a few, and I'm sure I'll miss some. Johnson's the favorite at -250. Yandiev is +230. Jordan Johnson's coming down from 205 to 185, taking this fight on a week and a half's notice. It means he's been losing weight, and this has been his plan. He looked okay at weigh-ins. He made the weight. Have to worry about his gas tank a little bit, whereas Yandiev hasn't fought in 3 years, is 9-0, has never been out of the first round, and has been involved in fight-fixing scandals or accusations, I should say. Nothing confirmed, but accusations. And if you watch some of his fights, they look weird. Jordan Johnson, decisions at 205 against not good competitors. Guys like one of the De Silva's last fight was Adam Milstead. For me, this is a fight where it's dog or pass. I mean, I guess you could go GPP on Johnson, but there are other people in that range I like more. Yandiev, clearly has power. I don't know. This is one of those. The tape I've seen. I think he's good enough. He's aggressive, big hands. I don't think much of Jordan Johnson, and because I'm hurting for dogs, this is one of the spots I'm willing to take a shot. So, point per dollar, I leave Yandiev because I need people in that range. Chris, what do you have on this fight?
It's funny you should mention about the fight fixing things. One of the fights was you saw Yandiev get one arm around his opponent. He didn't have the choke secured yet, and the ref goes, "Do you tap? Do you tap?" It looked like professional wrestling. It was very weird. But having said that, and we assume yada yada yada, but I don't know. I'm just not a big Jordan Johnson fan. I think he came into the UFC with a lot of hype as like this wrestler extraordinaire, get your takedowns. But we saw in the Adam Milstead fight that when he can't get the takedowns, he's basically just like a slow overhand. He's not very quick with his hands at all. I think he's a better technical grappler than Yandiev is going to be. Just we saw him, in those exchanges up against the cage. He'll try to control with the overhook, and he'll do all that sort of good stuff. But I don't know. Yandiev, it's so hard to gauge his fights because it's generally just him running into takedowns or his opponents trying to secure things and being overzealous and slipping out and him getting the upper hand. So it's really hard to gauge his fight. I think that if you're going to throw an underdog dart, this might be as good a place as any. I think it's going to be like a wild maelstrom of a fight for as long as it lasts. But I think I'm going to take Jordan Johnson's poise to win the fight. I just think he's a more controlled fighter, and I think Yandiev can get himself in a space where he can't get himself out of, and I kind of expect that to happen. But I'm probably going to dog or pass this fight as well for DraftKings.
Joe?
Okay, well, there's a little bit of narrative around this fight, okay? So we've already mentioned that Yandiev has not fought for 3 years. No one seems to know what he's been doing for 3 years. Our good friend, who we've actually had on as a guest, Newsom, has got some contacts in M1, and even his M1 contacts could not tell him what Yandiev has been up to. Here's the narrative. So his father, first of all, I should say his family is very wealthy, so he's not doing this to make a living. His father is a famous judoka. If you know anything about the former Soviet Union, judokas, including Mr. Putin, have done quite well. He parlayed his judoka fame to becoming a Chechen tycoon in the construction industry. His father had several sons. They took up judo. So he's not doing this for money, which is why he hasn't had to fight in the last 3 years. What's interesting about how he fights is that his submission style, and again, you guys are much more technical analysts than I am, but this just jumped out at me. His submission style is old MMA, is not something that would work on a regular basis in new MMA. It's neck cranks, right? It's pure brute strength. It's like anybody that has got some level of judo skill would be able to get out of those types of submissions. So the first lineup I created had Ware in it. It also had Yandiev in it because of the 7.5, the fact that the guy's got all his first round finishes. He's got a shot, but if this goes beyond the first round, I have to think that Jordan's offensive wrestling and just overall experience and activity over the course of the last 3 years are going to serve him well. So take a flyer on Yandiev. If it gets out of the first round, I think you're going to have problems, but I'm going to pick Jordan to win the fight.
All right, next up, Magomed Ankalaev, 9,100, taking on Marcin Prachnio, I think, 7,100. I should remember his name, but I don't know if he does after the beating he took from Sam Alvey, one of the weirdest knockouts you'll see when she got clipped on the feet and then just dropped his hands and walked towards Alvey, clearly not there anymore, and then Alvey hit him again and put his lights out for good. Whereas on the other side, Ankalaev beat the crap out of Paul Craig for 14 minutes and 59 seconds before getting triangled. I'm sure you've heard that all week in every MMA pod you listen to, but a lot of us got burned pretty bad on that one, myself included. And he's back. He's minus 430, Prachnio plus 380. Look, Prachnio has a karate style. From what I've seen, I don't think he can stop a takedown. Ankalaev, he comes from a gym with a lot of names you'd recognize but can't pronounce. Grapple first, should get takedown, should redeem himself. I think he's one of the safer plays in that range. Not sure terribly about his ceiling is the one thing that concerns me because he'll get a takedown, and he was against Paul Craig. He doesn't do a lot of advancing, ground and pound, will beat you up. However, I think a finish likely materializes here. I have a hard time seeing Prachnio winning this fight. And I like guys who go for takedowns. So I'm pretty high on Ankalaev this week. Joe, what do you have?
Now, is Prachnio the guy, or is Prachnio the guy that's coached by Bojan Bojovic? Or is that the other? Is that
Mihailovic?
Okay.
I don't remember.
Okay, so
I don't remember who.
I think that was Sekulić.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, you got it. Okay, I knew one of these guys was coached by Bojan. So this is. I laugh every time I think of either the low fight IQ of the fighter or what a bad corner he had to not yell out, "Hey, dude, hold on! You only got 10 seconds left." I do think he's going to try to redeem himself here, and I don't see anything that the other guy has that he hasn't seen. So I'm going to go with the Russian here.
Chris?
I'm going to have to, because I noticed a lot of people were doing this after the fight too, and he burned me too. But I'm going to have to come to his defense a little bit here. Should he got caught in it? No, but once you're in there and it's clamped, I got to imagine that you're panicking and you don't really think about much except for, oh my God, I'm going to pass out. So I don't blame him for tapping once the sub was in. You can say he shouldn't have let it get in, but I can't jump all over the guy when he was getting choked unmercifully. That's the one thing, my one defense of him. But I will say that, I watched that fight and I didn't remember having Paul Craig quite as much success as he did. I mean, he got a couple takedowns of his own. He held position a little bit. I don't expect Prachnio to do that, but look, Prachnio is still an explosive striker, and I think Ankalaev is gonna be waiting a little bit too much here. Obviously, if they get in grappling situations, I favor Ankalaev. But to your point, Sean, he doesn't really do much when he's on the ground. He's sort of just a pound you out kind of guy. We've seen Prachnio in his regional fights be kind of explosive when getting back to his feet. Obviously, holds his hands low. Obviously, doesn't move his head. None of those things are ideal. But I don't really expect Prachnio or Ankalaev, I should say, to land a knockout shot. Although we've seen him do that before too, so it's not out of the question. But I'm not totally looking past Prachnio as a live dog here, just because I think he's explosive enough to land that big shot. And I have questions about, Ankalaev's his ceiling here. But I think overall I'm going to take Ankalaev to win the fight. But I would say don't sleep on Prachnio entirely.
For me, the rebuttal after that, I think Prachnio is a fade for me personally. I know there's not a ton of dogs. He's not one of the ones I'm interested in because he has that karate style. I don't know if he's going to knock Ankalaev out, but I think he will be very low owned. If you're interested in that's how you win a GPP, Chris. So
that's right.
If I can't wish that for you though, because I'm probably going to play Ankalaev in cash.
Well, look, I'm not saying invest heavily. I'm just saying you're making like 542 lineups like Joe likes to do. Maybe a couple with Prachnio. That's all I'm saying.
Look, Chris, I will tell you that, and it's not because I have any level of confidence in him to win. It's just because there are not a lot of live dogs on this card. I've got 96 lineups created so far, and I am 24% Prachnio.
That's insane,
wow,
Joe. That's insane.
Wow.
You need to make some edits.
Well, the number's going to go down because I have 14 lineups in queue, so I'm gonna roll with 110 this week.
No, you need to, whatever. Even if you don't do any more Prachnio, it's still way too much.
No, there are no more. There's no more Prachnio, so that's. And that number was higher. I actually pared it down.
You need to pare down some more. Maybe as we talk about Mairbek, Taisumov at 8,900, taking on Desmond Green at 7,300. Taisumov is a big favorite. He is at, pull it up, the current line, minus 475. The comeback on Green plus 420. Seemingly like every fight on this card, tons of narrative. If you haven't heard, Desmond Green last month caused a car accident in which 2 people lost their lives. There's rumors circulating. Could there be pending charges? Can he travel? The fight is on. Taisumov, on the other hand, seems to fight every year, once a year, because of visa issues, and he missed weight by 7 pounds, which is not something Desmond Green's unfamiliar with because Michel Prajeris did the same thing to him. And I think it's strategy. I don't think Taisumov, I think it was on purpose. Green needs to fight. He knows Green's going to try and grapple, and that extra weight is going to make things a little harder, plus help the gas tank. That being said, I have some questions about the ceiling of Mairbek Taisumov. I know 100, obviously 100 is a great score, but right in that area is the best he can do, whereas we talked about Dvalishvili with grappling upside. I think can get higher than that. Taisumov is really knockout dependent now. He's on a 5 knockout streak. He scored 101 against Silva, 113 against Hadzovic. Those are both great. You take those. The two before that, 92 against Alan Patrick.
Tough fight.
And 99 against Christodoulou.
He's a can.
Yeah. So those are all good scores, but on this card, I'm not sure that's going to be enough or that he can get a first-round finish because Desmond Green has never been knocked out in his professional career. That being said, Taisumov is the better fighter. He should win here. I am more concerned about the scoring. And Desmond Green, because he likes to grapple and how much I like grapplers on DK, I'm going to have Desmond Green as one of the dogs I mix and match. That being said, Mairbek Taisumov is the way better future. The fact that he missed weight totally helps him. He wins this fight. Does he get a finish is the real question. I think that's what we all need to kind of decide. So, Chris, what do you think? Does Mairbek Taisumov get a finish here?
I'm leaning more and more that he does. And the reason I say that is because, if you rewatch that the Gleison Tebow fight with Desmond Green, when he tries to fight from the outside, Desmond Green, what his plan seems to be is to just jump into range with shots, and he got countered quite a few times by Tebow doing that, more than I remembered. It didn't turn into anything because Tebow is the kind of guy when he's fighting a guy longer than him, he really has nothing to do except throw these power shots that fall short. But I think if Desmond Green does that against Taisumov, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. And I also think, sure, he's not the grappler wrestler, but I think like his anti-grappling is really pretty good. Alan Patrick couldn't take him down, couldn't even come close. So I love his takedown defense. I don't think Green's going to be able to get him down. I don't think he's going to be able to keep him there at any rate. I just think that look, he can do pretty much anything. He can come forward. He can lead. He can knock you out going backwards. He's got fast hands. I really like him a lot here. And the fact that Desmond Green's never been knocked out, can only add to, because I think a lot of people are going to have that perception. And so, when he does get his finish, I think that's going to lead to a lot of points, and maybe people are going to fade him for that reason. I just think he is, as you said, he's the future. And I think that Desmond Green is just not a fighter. He doesn't have any weapons for him. And I think the first time he tries to open up, it's going to be trouble for him. So, yeah, I'm taking Taisumov to get the knockout. I
disagree with you that I think Taisumov is going to be pretty chalky. I think people are, this Desmond Green, his mind can't possibly be in the fight, which there's probably some merit to that. I actually think Taisumov's going to be really popular. Joe, what do you think on this fight?
So I think there's a bit of line value in Tas, just because, he is a sub 9K fighter here in a card that's loaded with 9K fighters. I think this would be a difficult enough fight for Green absent the narrative. But my God, you're coming into a fight where not too long ago, oh, by the way, while driving on a revoked license, or suspended license, you got into an accident that ended up in the death of 2 people. So I don't know how, at the very least, he's not going to go to trial of some sort. I also agree with you, Sean, that this weight miss was strategic because he knew that this guy is flying to Russia, right? He's not going to say no. He likely needs the money for the fight. This was very strategic and dare I say smart. He's sacrificing 20% of
40.
It's 40, yeah.
Okay, so he's 40. Okay, so he's sacrificing 40, and he can't win fight of the night. So, yeah, Yeah, but I think with the card loaded, the chances that he wins, well, I don't know, maybe not, but I do like him a bit. Like I always said it, I would rather have a guy miss by, 5 pounds than miss by a quarter of a pound, because at a point, he probably said, you know what, just fuck it. I'm sorry, just F it. And I'm not gonna cut weight anymore, right? So I do like him here. I think that if it goes beyond the first round, it could get interesting. But I do like him here, and that was good comment that Chris made about Patrick. I certainly do not think that Green is a better wrestler than Patrick. So Taz.
All right, next up, I actually want to do a quick public service announcement. I should have mentioned this in the open. Remember, this card is tomorrow, Saturday, September 15th. It starts, lineup block is 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. So it is an early card, all on Fight Pass, but make sure you get your lineups in. I'm over in chat, right? By the way, if you're listening to this afterwards on the RotoWire MMA iTunes feed, we record these Friday nights. Jump in on YouTube, subscribe. You'll get the notification that we're live, and ask any questions. There's some good banter going on. As questions come in, I'll get to them. Also, now that I'm in here, guys who are watching, we have about 30 or so people watching live. If you guys could click that little thumbs up button, I'd appreciate it. I'm probably asking for trouble, but we don't have any thumbs up and we have 2 thumbs down. And if you're one of those 2 people, you can get out. And everybody else, go ahead and click the thumbs up. Moving on that note.
Look, I don't mind if someone gives us a thumbs down, in all honesty. Tell us why. Like
I'm just being a smartass.
No, seriously though. I think it's a good question. Like, okay, why? Like, well, what don't you like? I'm perfectly willing to accept criticism as long as it's valid.
If we were at the main event and Chris was talking to Alexey Olenek, then go ahead and thumbs down the crap out of this video.
No, that's gonna be the best part of the show. What are you kidding me? Come on.
All right, let's get there because we are about 35 minutes in. We have Rustam Khabilov 9,500 taking on Kajan Johnson 6,700. Khabilov minus 750. Kajan Johnson plus 600. Kajan Johnson. This is his last fight in the UFC. Got destroyed by Islam Makhachev last time out. Dana White hates him because he's part of that Project Spearhead, I think it is. Fighters trying to get a union along with Leslie Smith. He's on his way out. Khabilov should win this fight. The problem is the Kajan makes fights ugly, and Khabilov isn't the most volume action-packed fighter. He's not urgent at all. So this could turn into a low-scoring affair, and if anywhere but Russia, I'd be half concerned Kajan weasels out a win. The bigger concern is what does Khabilov score? This is one of those where if you're going to punt somewhere, we'll talk about Petr Yan versus guy, his name I can't remember later, the Korean or Japanese guy.
Soon.
Soon. I wanted to say Chu and I knew it wasn't right. Soon. I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't go towards somebody suggested Sekulić earlier. I'd go towards Johnson of those super punts. I think right now we are up to Joe for this one. What do you got?
Okay, so we're probably going to get another thumbs down here, but I have my own public service announcement. We got to give major props to the DFS sniper for crushing it in the NASCAR qualifier, going to the live final. Not only did he get into the live final, but he actually finished first. Not that got him any more money, because you just had to finish the top 12 out of 30. He actually killed it and finished first. So props to the DFS sniper for a free trip to Charlotte. He's gonna compete for some major ducats down there. So okay, so back to the card anyway. So
appreciate it.
Yeah, 9.5K on DraftKings. I don't know. I mean, I'd rather pay up 100 for Yan. I'd rather go down to any number of spots. With that said, it could be interesting because I think he might be under-owned. And he might be worth a play for that reason. I will say he is probably going to be the lowest owned fighter that I have above 8.9K. I do pick him to win though.
Chris?
Yeah, it's so funny because I was thinking about this fight, and I remember going into Kajan Johnson's last fight. I was like, well, this is a terrible style matchup for Kajan Johnson because we have a wrestler, and all Johnson does is back himself up against the cage and try to go back and forth. But I was thinking to myself, he's not going to really do that, is he? And then the fight came, and that's exactly what he did, and he got himself taken down. And so I just don't understand how this guy expects to win fights against dedicated wrestlers like that. I would like to think that this time he will, because he's a quick guy. He should be in the middle of the cage trying to use his movement to avoid the takedowns, but instead he makes it as easy as possible. So if he does that again, which I guess I have no reason to think that he won't, he's basically going to feed Khabilov takedowns. And once he's on top, we know he's a strong guy. We know he's a good positional grappler. Does he have a finish in the UFC yet? I'm not sure. Anybody? Bueller? No?
Keep talking. We'll look.
All right. I'll let you guys. If you guys could find that for me, that'd be great. But I don't think he does. And I think that'll shy some people away. But I just can't help being drawn to him by the way that Kajan Johnson fights. And I don't think that, when he actually connects, he hits hard. But I just think he's got possibly the worst style matchup again for one of these dedicated wrestlers. So I would say, as Joe said, and thank you for saying it first so I didn't have to, because I seem to be saying it a lot, that if you want to take him as sort of a pivot away play from a lot of these other more expensive guys, I would say go for it.
He's got to finish way back in the days that, before the iPhone 3 came out against Vince from Hell Pichel. He's got one finish.
All right.
One finish.
He also has the knockout win over Yancy Medeiros.
What? Are you sure?
Yep, 2013.
Was that in the UFC? Yeah.
It's on DraftKings.
Oh, you are correct. Oh, you know what? It was a hand injury, so it was a technical knockout.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, you are correct, though, technically.
All right, Chris, you're going to do your best to keep it short on this one because it's Petr Yan at 9,600 against Jin Soo Son at 6,600. Petr Yan is minus 900. If you don't know, he's a freaking killer at 135. I think he's going to be at least top 10. People are touting him even higher. That top 10 is conservative. Dude's a monster. Kept having guys fall off the card. Nobody wants to fight him. Douglas Silva, Andrade, looking at you. Petr Yan wins this fight. If you can bid him, play him. He's super expensive, though. Chris?
Well, I don't know if you guys managed to, but your boy did manage to find some tape on Son. And, honestly, I wish there was some more to say. There's really not that much. He likes to pressure. He's like the ultimate pressure counter fighter where he tries to pressure and draw you out. And Petr Yan does pretty much the same thing, except he's better at it. I also think he's a more accurate puncher. I think he's a more powerful puncher. We've seen Son in some of those fights. He likes to go for these body lock takedowns, which I assume means he's pretty strong. But, I don't really see him being that much stronger than Petr Yan. And per your wishes, Sean, I'll keep this short. And I'm going to say Petr Yan wins the pressure war, as I expect him to, hits him with something hard and knocks him out.
Joe, what do you got?
Okay, so I do understand a little bit of Korean. So I saw a video, a spy video of Soon asking his coach how he could beat Petr Yan. And I may have got the translation wrong, but I swore that his coach said, translated into English, the way that you beat him is with a stick in his bed while he's asleep. Because that's the only way he's got a shot to win this fight. 9.6K cash game lock, very hard to pay up for in GPPs, although I would try to use him and create a number of lineups featuring Petr Yan, maybe with the higher end of the mid-range, so you don't have to go too far low down the spectrum. But I think it's probably as reflected by the salary, the best play on the card.
All right, next up, Khalid Murtazaliev, 8,400, taking on CB Dollaway at 7,800. Murtazaliev is the favorite in this one at minus 165. The comeback on Dollaway plus 155. The question in this one is, what can Murtazaliev do with the wrestling of CB Dollaway, and is CB Dollaway going to slowly decline? Last time out, he won by getting knocked into oblivion by Hector Lombard. Granted, solid 5 seconds, it seemed like, after the horn went off for D1 for round one. It was a disqualification. He also has recently been knocked out by an elevator. Murtazaliev is a good prospect. I don't want a ton of this fight because I do think Dollaway is tough, can fight at a slow enough pace, could grind some grappling. I'm leaning dog or pass, mostly because the others in this range, such as Krylov, Blachowicz, Mark Hunt, even Olenek if you want to get really crazy. Actually, I'd probably play either one of these guys before Olenek, but you get what I mean. This is a GPP range, and I don't see this being a cash fight, so it's mostly dog or pass in terms of Dollaway, hoping he uses his wrestling. But Murtazaliev is a solid prospect. Chris, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, I don't know. Part of me thinks that Dollaway can use his grappling and top control. Part of me thinks he's a better positional grappler. But
legendary savings are on now. Intel Gamer Days 2018 is your chance to save.
Dude, what?
Pretty sure we can't have commercials. Stay focused. Stay focused.
Sure Dog was talking. Sure Dog was talking to me, but it's over.
Sure Dog is just, you know what? I'll be nice. Just go to Tapology.
Oh, shots fired. All right. Well, anyway, I think that, as I said, I kind of like the wrestling at Dollaway here, but problem is that in the fight with Ed Herman, I don't know, every time they were on the feet, it seemed like he was either getting hurt with something or, getting backed up. And it sort of reminded me of the last Diego Sanchez fight where he was winning on the ground, but every time he's on the feet, you were afraid he's going to get murdered. So I kind of just have the feeling that he's going to get knocked out. If he can sustain his grappling for 3 rounds, I think he's got a chance. But I think I can't escape the feeling that a knockout's coming. So I'm going to go with that.
Okay, well, you guys stole a lot of my narrative, being knocked out by the elevator. Here's a little bit more, though. Dollaway did not fight at all during 2016. Okay, he had one fight in 2017. And if you can call the fact that he was knocked unconscious in round one, at the end of round one in 2018, he's fought once in 2018. So not an overly active fighter here. D1 wrestler, which, okay, great. I do think that there's some value in maybe targeting this fight. I mean, there's not a lot of fights where you could target both sides and feel good about it. But I think there is a path to victory here for both fighters. I'm going to go with the Russian again, which, surprise, surprise. But I do think it's worth putting some lineups together with Dollaway.
All right, next up, my least favorite name on the card, Alexey Kunchenko. Hey, got through it. For whatever reason, I've been stumbling on him all week. Taking on Thiago Alves, Kunchenko is 9,000. Alves is 7,200. Kunchenko, who I was going to say the Russian, but I'm not positive he's Russian. I think he is.
Yes, I believe
he's the favorite at minus 560. Alves at plus 475. Look, this is one of those. Kunchenko is a legit prospect. I believe he's the one. God, all these Russians have been jumbled in my head all week. He is the M1 champion, correct?
Yes, M1
yes,
Global.
Welterweight. I think he's actually 34. I don't know if he's, prospect status.
He's the M1 champ, coming in, taking on Thiago Alves, who has been declining. Curtis Melender knocked him out last time out. He beat Patrick Cote, but Patrick Cote retired after that fight, and Jim Miller held him down for 3 rounds in their fight in 2016. But this is one of those, I think they're going to stand and trade. I think it's going to be a kickboxing match. Actually, if that's what happens, then this line is too wide. Kunchenko opened at minus 245. If he looks to grapple here, I think he'll have some success. But really, I think he's kind of just a more polished version of Alves as of late. And Man, I wish I could trust Alves' chin a little more. I wish Melender hadn't just knocked him out, because this is one of those maybe I play him in cash type of situations, and that he could stay around for a decision, land 50, 60 strikes and a loss, and take me 25, 30 points at his price tag of 7.2 thousand. I would sign up for that. So that's the way I'm leaning this fight. Kunchenko is live. I can't fade him. I think he's right now better than Alves, but they're really similar fighters to me, and this line has really gotten steam pretty quick where I think it's a little wide. Who are we on for this one?
Me. Actually, although I think it was me last time and you went to Chris, but we'll let Chris do Hunt Olanik before me anyway. So I actually like him a fair amount here.
Kunchenko or Alves?
Kunchenko. And there's also some odds value here. He's on top of guys priced higher than him salary-wise. So the widening of the line makes odds value for Kunchenko. Real
quick, just with odds value, it's a conversation we should have a different day. We're not up against it, but really, I think there's a difference personally between odds value that is inherent where Vegas sets the line and odds value that the public has steamed. Like I love to know amount of money versus number of tickets. Just something we should talk about at a later date.
Fair enough. I think you need to look at both, but I mean, I see him at 9K on top of guys, 9.1K, 9.2K. And to me, that translates to some odds value. So I liked him before. I don't know what took him so long to get into the UFC, but I think that they want him to win. The UFC does, so he could be promoted, especially as they try to build up that Eastern European market. I have to believe Alves is gone or pretty close to gone. Ever since USADA, he's never really looked the same. He beat Patrick Cote. Okay, big whoop. Cote left his gloves in the ring after that fight. Definitely, I don't know this for a fact, but I have to figure that USADA probably shaved a couple years off of his career. I like Kunchenko here a fair amount.
Chris?
Well, my first, at least semi-confident underdog pick. I like Alves.
Oh my God, I'm going to do this. And I had to say it before Chris starts. One thing I wanted to mention, in defense of Chris, and I cannot believe I'm saying that, of all of the big underdogs on this card, all the underdogs, Alves is by far the best fighter. Like, I don't think there's not much of a debate there. It's just the matchup here. But
I would say he might have the best record. I don't know if he's the best fighter.
Him and Desmond Green are the only legit professional fighters below 7,800. Stevie Dollaway is also old. And then, are you going to tell me he's a better fighter or he's a worse fighter than Olenek, Yandiev, Prachnio, Sekulić?
Whoa, let's not go crazy.
Olenek has some wins. I mean, that's where Olenek's better.
We'll just table that. I'll let Chris go. He's the most experienced and, in my opinion, most professional fighter in that bunch. Sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
Well, I think we have some tough crowd today. I mean, a knockout loss to Curtis Melender. I mean, it's not great from where Thiago Alves used to be as a fighter, but I don't think it's the end of the world. And I think that for an 18-0 fighter, I mean, I had the same reaction everybody else did. You're like, oh my God, I can't wait to see this guy. But I mean, if you have that if you think he's going to be a world beater, I think you're going to be a little disappointed when you look at tape. I mean, really what he is, he's a very slow fighting sort of pressure counter puncher. There seem to be a lot of those on this card. And I think he's got fast hands. He's an accurate puncher, but I think Alves is going to have a lot of space and a lot of time to get those kicks off, those leg and body kicks, and especially he holds his guard very high, which I think is going to be another avenue for that. As I said, when he does throw, he's got fast hands, but it's going to be a very slow-paced fight. Alves isn't going to have to worry about that kind of reach disadvantage here. I think just moving around the cage, he's going to be a bit faster, if not, at least can keep up with the speed. And, I just think he can outwork him over 3 rounds. So I like Alves quite a bit as a dog player.
Dear God, I can't believe that we agree.
Alves lost to Jim Miller when Jim Miller had Lyme disease. You know that, right?
He did, but he's not. Is Kunchenko gonna grapple like that? And also, Joe. This is one of those. What other options do you have down there?
I don't even have to say a word here. Sean's my lawyer. I love it.
Don't get used to it because we're going to war soon. We are going to war. But before that, we got to get through these next couple fights before we can do that. We have Shamil Abdurakhimov, 8,300, taking on Andrei Arlovski at 7,900. This is one of my more confident dog picks of the card, and it's barely a dog pick because Arlovski's 7,900. But you know what? I'm gonna say it counts here. As of right now, Abdurakhimov, I believe, is still the favorite at minus 135. Arlovski's plus 125. Look, I think we finally dispelled the rumor that Arlovski doesn't have a chin. Did that line 5 times? Something weird happened here. Best fight odds are showing that Arlovski opened at minus 215. I don't quite believe that. Sorry, that was distracting. Weird. Arlovski's coming off of a close loss against the prospect Tai Tuivasa, who's a much better prospect than Abdurakhimov. Way different fighter. I get that. We will get there. He took punches from and beat Junior Albini. I get Albini hasn't looked great as of late. And he went against Stefan Struve. Arlovski has toned down his aggression he's shown from the old school days to become more of a point fighter. And I think that's going to pay off well for him in this fight against Abdurakhimov. The problem, again, as I've said a few times, is scoring, because Abdurakhimov is the John Dodson of the heavyweight division. There's no volume. Look to grapple, but there's a lot of standing and grabbing and awkward clenching. And I think Arlovski's going to have enough in his tool belt to not get taken down, separate, land on during the separation. I think he's better at range, clearly. I think he wins a close decision. I like Arlovski for the odds. The scoring is the issue, but on this card, any underdog that I have any inclination is going to win, I have to look at heavily. So I'm liking Arlovski at 7,900. Chris?
Yeah, this is a tough one for me because I've solidly backed Arlovski in his last few. I think there's an argument that can be made to say that he won that Tuivasa fight. Third round was at least close, but I don't know. My problem with Arlovski is that he's quicker than I think most people give him credit for. He's got a good chin, as you said, but he's very rote in that he basically just tries to throw the overhand right. These days, and that's basically he'll throw a jab in there too every now and then, but that's basically what he does. I liked Abdurakhimov in that Sherman fight. He showed I loved that left hook that he kept going to that eventually caught Sherman and knocked him out. I think that he's a really good advantageous grappler. He's good. He's a good reactionary on the takedowns. We saw it in the Derek Lewis fight. I agree with you that 8,400 is probably a bit too much for him. I just don't. I think this is going to be a slow-paced fight for each guy. But I think that the grappling will probably give Abdurakhimov the advantage. So I'm going to take Abdurakhimov here slightly, but this isn't a great fight for me to target.
Joe?
Yeah, I wouldn't put too much in that Chase Sherman knockout. I mean, Chase Sherman knocks himself out nightly when his head hits the pillow.
A hard shot. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, come on. He fought Grabowski to a 3-round decision win. So I don't know what to look. This has low scoring snoozer all over it, written all over it, and I'm gonna say Arlovski only because he fits better in lineups at 7.9K. That's it. I don't really have a strong take on this fight. I do think he probably will get taken down a few times, but at 8.4K, I don't see a lot of value with low output striking and a handful of takedowns if the fight goes to a decision. So not a very confident pick, but I'll pick Arlo.
Real quick, Joe, question from YouTube. Cody asks, Joe, with obviously 100 lineups, you have exposure to all or most of the dogs. Which ones are you mixing in the most? Give me your top 2.
Oof. Hang on one second, since the question was asked. Let's see.
Well, we know that Prachnio is at like 40%, right? So
no, it was 24, which is crazy.
Yeah,
while Joe's looking that up, the co-main event of the evening is Nikita Krylov at 8,200, taking on Jan Blachowicz at 8,000. Krylov making his return to the UFC. I believe he asked to be released to spend more time with his family. I believe he had a child. He's back. He's coming off of a loss. His last UFC fight was a loss against Misha Serkinov. Since then, he's been can crushing in Europe. Blachowicz continues to look good when people count him out. Wins over Jimmy Manoa. What's the other fight? A win over Devin Clark. With the Bulldog choke, and Jared Cannonier was the one I couldn't think of. So those, Manoa is a good win to me. Clark showed he can deal with a grappler, caught him in a Bulldog choke, an odd submission, but he got it done. And here against Krylov, I think Blachowicz is going to have the grappling advantage. Krylov is kill or be killed. This fight's like minus 290 to end inside the distance. 29 fights for Krylov has never been to a decision. I think it's about 29. Blachowicz, on the other hand, seems to go to decision a ton. I think Blachowicz is going to have just enough on the feet, straight punches, movement, mixing the grappling, takedown or two. I do think it's a very close fight. You could target both sides. Krylov, obviously, with his history for finishes, has a ceiling, as is Blachowicz, because Krylov, when he doesn't seem to be winning, seems to quit. So both these guys are playable. I think this is one of the fights you can target both sides of. I do lean Blachowicz. Chris?
Yeah, I'm gonna lean Krylov here, and the reason I think is because look, I like Blachowicz has really gotten a lot of tools in his veteranship. We saw he fights kind of jab now. He never really did that before. We saw him counter very effectively in the Manuel fight with that left hook uppercut combination. He'll throw the lead uppercut too. Obviously, he's got the grappling, which he showed off in the Cannonier fight. So he's very toolsy, and I like that about him. I just think he's going to be a little too slow and a little too stiff for Nikita Krylov here. I think Krylov, we know that Blachowicz is hittable even when he's winning. Krylov, I think, is just going to be too powerful as well. He actually fought a heavyweight for a spell. I think he's going to be too powerful. I think he's going to be too quick. I think he can at least hang on in the grappling, even if I can see that Blachowicz is the better grappler, which I think he is. But I think Krylov takes a win here, and a finish wouldn't shock me.
Joe, answer the previous question, and what do you got for this fight?
Okay, Oli and CB Dollaway are my two biggest.
Did you just say Olenek?
Yeah.
Get the hell out of here.
There's odds value there. Okay, so as it relates to this fight, Jan the man is the man. But look, I don't know. First of all,
there's odds value on Krylov too. Play him at 60%. You lunatic.
No. So here's the deal, right? Okay, so we don't know how much, if any, Krylov's improved crushing cans in Eastern Europe. That loss to Cirque looks so much worse now, based on what we know about the pillow-jawed Cirque, who seems to lose everywhere now. Very impressed with Jan the Man's last fight against Manoa. I figured I actually had him, but no way did I think he would outstrike Manoa, which is what he did. I thought he would rely on his wrestling. It could just be that he's peaking. I like him here. I think he's a fairly safe play in cash, although it's a very, very hard card to construct a cash lineup.
It's a nightmare.
I do like him in cash. I think this is a good fight to target just because it's really close in terms of salary. I think this is a really good fight to target. I am picking Jan the Man.
All right, let's get to it. Our main event of the evening. It is Mark Hunt, 8,600, taking on Alexey Oleinik at 7,600. The line has gotten just crazy, in my opinion. Mark Hunt, we were talking about it beforehand, even though Chris is is taking Oleinik. I think he concedes the line is too close right now. It's minus 125 for Mark Hunt, plus 115 for Oleinik. Hunt opened at minus 215, has been slowly coming down the last 10 days or so. Alexey Oleinik, in my opinion, benefits from people, especially at heavyweight, having no idea what in the hell they are doing on the ground. The Ezekiel choke is a submission you hit in the gi. Push up on an elbow. Go 2-on-1 on one of the hands. Both your hands are free. If he's got incredible grip strength, maybe he does. Well, clearly he does. But when you watch the Ezekiel choke that he's pulling off, not once in all the videos I watched, and I watched a bunch, did I see anyone even attempting to defend properly. God help me if Mark Hunt falls into that category and doesn't even try to defend it. That being said, as well, Oleinik takes a lot of damage on the feet. He's incredibly hittable. He pulls people into mount, which is, I can't condone that ever. Look, he's a one-trick pony, and Mark Hunt, even Oleinik said it's got, in Oleinik's words, a big fat neck that's going to make the Ezekiel choke really hard to hit. Mark Hunt, look, I know he's 13-12 as a professional. He's also very old. There's more in to where I think at least he has an elite skill set for me in the striking. Oleinik's a good grappler who specializes in something that just shouldn't work, and he's a heavyweight, so it does. That's how I see the fight. I can never get on the Alexey Oleinik train. If he wins, look, personally, I'm fading him. That's my opinion. Do what you want with it. You know, obviously play your own game. There's odds there, but I can never get behind Alexey Oleinik. I just can't do it. Mark Hunt, he needs a quick finish to pay off, first or second round. Hasn't really got one of those in a long time. The first time he had a first or second round knockout was 2016 against Frank Mir, which does not look very good. He did go 5 rounds against Stipe Miocic in 2015. You know, lost to Alistair Overeem, lost to Brock Lesnar, lost to Curtis Blades. Those are all way different names than Alexey Oleinik, who I just think he's better than. I like the elite skill set. I'm going to mix in Mark Hunt. I said my piece. I'm going to contain myself. Chris, go ahead.
Wait. I thought Chris goes last here.
I mean, you said you wanted to let him go. Okay, you know what? But I mean, you're playing a ton of Oleinik too, so I can't trust anyone on this podcast.
No, I'm going to agree with you. So let me go first. Let me go first because I got 3 quick points to make here. Okay, one is I agree with everything you said. I actually like Hunt to win this fight. But there is odds value in Oleinik, which is why I'm going to have some shares of him. Finally, this is not a must-play main event. So I don't want, anybody to think that you can't fade this main event, because I also agree with your point about scores. You know, it could be if Hunt, first of all, I think no way this fight goes the distance. I think it's a horrible fight to stack and cash. I mean, a lot of people like to stack 5-round main events.
Go stack the first fight instead of the last.
Yeah, stack Ware, Dvalishvili. That's going to be a much better fight. If you must stack. But I just because of the odds value, I will have some shares. I like him better because he does have a distinct path to victory, which I don't see for some of the other, dogs. And he's actually not much of a dog. So my pick is Hunt, but I do advise having some shares of Oli in GPPs. Chris,
go ahead. Give us all the Alexey Oleinik love.
Well, first of all, I don't know why they keep feeding Oleinik these cans, but the first thing I'll say about the fight in general,
I will agree with you. Victor Pesta is a can, and Junior Albini is dead to me.
Yeah, I know. Well, haven't you considered the fact that if he keeps ruining your nights, that maybe eventually one time you should come around?
No, because Chris, have you watched these fights? Have you? I'm assuming you've rolled before. The Ezekiel choke.
I watched him on repeat.
Is a gi choke. Watch him on repeat with your pants down. Sorry, couldn't help it. Look, it's a gi choke. No one even tries to defend it right. I can't.
Okay, all right. In all seriousness, I think that we've gotten a little too carried away. I love the Ezekiel choke. I think it's awesome. But to act like that's the only thing he does is a little bit unfair to the guy. I think he's got obviously rear naked chokes. He likes to do that the neck crank, which is actually called a scarfold choke. He's got He's actually got a knockout in the UFC over Jared Rochold. So nice. I think he's got a lot of different ways to win here. I think that he's a legit submission specialist. He's not just an Ezekiel choke guy. And so I think that the way he likes to get his takedowns, which is up against the fence, is where we've seen Mark Hunt struggle with takedowns in the past. Mark Hunt is good at defending open mat takedowns because he limp legs out of them, but you can't do that up against the cage. So these guys just lock underneath the double and they get him down. And I think that's what Oleinik's going to do here. And yes, he does take a lot of damage, but Mark Hunt, who's always been a slow-paced fighter somewhat, has gotten unbearably slow of late. He doesn't throw any strikes. He just seems to always be looking for the perfect knockout punch. That seems to be
and always Speedy Gonzalez.
No. Well, look, I mean, the guy's got bad knees, and he gets it done. What do you want from him? But I just think that he's gonna, for as slow as he is in his bad knees, he's gonna be the one pushing the pace here. He's gonna be the one with that crazy sambo striking, winging those hooks, trying to get Mark Hunt back up against the fence. And look, Mark Hunt, we saw him play around with that step and elbow and actually land one against Alistair Overeem. He didn't follow up on it, which really made me upset because I had Mark Hunt in that fight. But, I think that Mark Hunt can catch him coming in. But if Mark Hunt doesn't land the perfect shot here, I just think if this fight goes more than a round or a couple minutes, I find it hard to believe that he'll never end up on his back. I think that's going to happen, and I think Oleinik's getting a sub here.
All right, agree to disagree on that one. We'll move to our hot takes real quick. I want to thank everyone who clicked the thumbs up on YouTube because we are, like 12 or 13 now. So
can we recap? Can we recap our prior week's hot takes?
They were good. I don't remember them. I know.
I only remember mine.
I know I hit mine.
So I hit mine. Chris?
So I hit Andrade knocking out Kovalevich.
I said there would not be a white with the victory.
I don't remember what mine was. Does anybody know? I don't remember.
Offhand,
it must not have been very good if I don't remember.
It might have been. I honestly just don't remember. We'll try and keep them on track and recap them. You guys got any hot takes for this edition of?
Okay, my hot take is this: the leading scorer as a multiple of X is going to be sub 9K.
Woo!
That's my hot take.
You don't think Petr Yan scores 100?
I'm saying as a multiple of X. So based on salary, points per dollar.
Right.
I'm saying that I don't necessarily. Well, look, he could get a first round finish and score less than 100 points.
He could.
It's happened. So that's why I'm going to go. It's a hot take. That's a hot take. That's
pretty hot. That means no one's going to score 100. That'd be an interesting.
Well, I said under 9K. Now that Taisumov is under 9K.
You said 9X.
No, I said under 9K. I said the highest point scorer as a function of X is going to be under 9K. Salary under 9K.
I heard K and X mixed up. Okay, got it. Yeah, somebody in that mid range is going to hit. I think that's probably. I like that hot take, Chris.
Martin Prachnio, the Kyokushin karate expert, is going to stun and knock out Magomed and Ankalaev.
Well, that helped me out.
Yeah, Joe loves that pick.
That would be awful for me. That would be horrendous for me. Absolutely, positively.
You're playing with NASCAR money. Come on.
Horrendous. Not yet. I'm not. My hot take is going to be Merab Dvalishvili finishes Terrion Ware.
Do you care to get a method in there or no?
Wow.
Ground and pound TKO.
I
think one of the times that Terrion Ware is trying to get up time after time after time, he's going to get sloppy, give up his back, turtle up, and get ground and pounded out of there. That's the hot take.
So here's one for debate. Will the Russian octagon girls be hotter than the Brazil octagon girls? I'm going to say yes.
I'll go with yes.
I'll say no.
Of course you will, because you like the underdogs.
Okay.
Guys, That's it for Fight IQ. Remember to go to rotowire.com/free. Check out all their usually paid content. Free for 10 days. No credit card required. Remember, lineup block is tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Guys, this was fun.
San Paulo next week, right?
I believe so. So, everyone, that's it. That's it for this week. Good luck in your contest. Join us live this week or next week if you didn't this week. Take care, guys.
Take care.